Welcome to the American Conservation Experience podcast. Get ready to meet the inspiring individuals who are the driving force of conservation projects across the country. From the towering peaks of our national parks to the vital ecosystems of our wildlife refuges and beyond, we'll introduce you to the dedicated people who are making a tangible difference. Join us as we shine a light on the often unsung heroes who build and maintain our trails, revitalize crucial habitats, and so much more, all powered by the energy and commitment of thousands of young adults. So let's dive in and explore the world of conservation together. Thanks for joining us.
I'm here with two really illustrious guests that I'm excited for you all to meet. Laura, our CEO, and Sarah, our board chair. So maybe, Sarah, if it's all right with you, we could just start with you really quick and have you tell us about your role with ACE and who you are. And then we can go to Laura.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Dave. Great to be with both of you, Laura. And I guess I'll just start with my first gateway to conservation dates really far back to my childhood, visiting places like Acadia National Park in Maine, going on historic tours at Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia, visiting the Outer Banks of North Carolina, hiking with my aunt and uncle at Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And of course, one of my very first jobs many years ago was working at Cleveland Metro Parks, which arguably, in my opinion, is one of the best park systems in the nation. And all of these places, I believe, ACE has served. So it is an absolute honor to be on the board of directors of ACE. Recently, towards the end of last year, I was nominated chair. And I do have a history with ACE, working with ACE, actually meeting ACE just over 20 years ago as I was establishing what I call my own conservation corps in Southern California. And just in the time of working for and with Laura, I have enjoyed greatly seeing the organization grow and evolve. And on behalf of the board of directors, we are so proud of Laura and her team and her leadership. So with all that said, my current role at California State Parks as a deputy director, I really enjoy seeing ACE crews taking care of all of our trails statewide, both non-motorized and motorized. I specifically focus on off-highway vehicle recreation, and I have the fortune of managing a trust fund where we provide funding to agencies like the U.S. Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, and in recent years, ACE has served for BLM through one of these grants. So there's so much to relate, and I'm just so happy, honored to be a part of this podcast.
Well, thanks for that, Sarah. And Laura, same question to you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role here at ACE?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thanks, Dave. And Sarah, good to see you again. My role at ACE, I've been the chief executive officer here since 2018. And my journey into the conservation world is really different than Sarah's. This is actually almost a second career for me. I spent a number of years working in child and family services and working with youth and young adults and families with a variety of disabilities. And then quite almost stumbled onto the conservation community and found a position when I was living in New Hampshire and joined a group called the Student Conservation Association. And I was there for about 15 years and had a mini career within that organization, probably about 8 different roles, and culminating with really being the head of all of our programs and partnerships with SCA. And then decided it was time for a change and took a year to do some contract work with another nonprofit and not really sure what I wanted to do. And then the ACE position opened up. The founder of the organization had decided, yeah, it's time to do something different. And I thought about it as you do in any big decision, talk to family, because it was going to mean a cross-country move, among other things, and decided to go for it. And went through the application process, got the offer, and the next thing we know, we find ourselves driving across country from Washington, D.C. to Flagstaff. And joined an organization that's really different than it is now. And it's been such a incredible journey with ACE, seeing it grow, seeing it change, and really looking forward to just seeing what's next for this organization. So I think things like this podcast are an amazing opportunity to get the word out about a really phenomenal organization.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Laura, because as I've been thinking about this conversation I was going to have with the two of you, I've thought a lot about just what a different ACE we are today compared to when you started. I've only worked for ACE for a couple of years, but I've known about ACE since 2009 when I entered the core world. Completely different organization. And I would love to hear a little bit about just your vision, like when you first took that job and you first arrived in this job and you first arrived in Flagstaff, did you foresee it being this kind of organization? Did you have a plan for where you wanted it to be? Or has the world taken us in a direction?
That's a big question, Dave. To be honest, I think my first few weeks, and Sarah was there with me, were a little bit of deer in the headlights of,
Hmm.
wow, what is this? A lot more autonomous units within the organization, and to the point where it really felt like mini organizations throughout. And so one of the things, my vision initially was, this needs to be one organization. This needs to be not this program or this program sort of fighting with each other or jockeying for position, but how do we take a really great concept and bring people together? And I think that's a lot of what I have done and worked towards over the past 7 years, is constantly bringing people together and thinking about one ACE and how everything that we do contributes, whether that's the program people, whether that is our finance team, whether that is our communications in these opportunities, and whether it's our board members, that all of us thinking about and being one organization. So that was a primary, I hate the term aha moment, but it was an aha moment of this organization could really come together and be something. And I think we're getting there. And I don't think my hope is we ever feel like we got there, that this should always be a continuing journey. But I would say that was one of the original visions. And it's never been a number. It's never been like, well, we have to be an $80 million organization to be successful, or we have to be the biggest. It's really been about bringing us together and really being a quality group of people and providing a quality experience for all the people that have done our program and hopefully will continue to do our program moving forward.
Laura, what I recall from those early days, the first few weeks of you landing in Flagstaff, and it has really stuck with me. I think you refined all those. You just said it seemed like there were a number of organizations within ACE by calling out your vision that you wanted to be the organization of choice, the employer of choice, and the member, right?
Program of choice, partner of choice, and employer or workplace of choice. Yes. Bringing that all together.
And I love that you included employer of choice in there. I think it's ironic sometimes that in the core world where we're so dedicated to our members, we sometimes forget that our own staff need to be progressing and need to have professional development. And, ACE does not forget that. So I love that was there from the get-go.
Before the get go, that was part of,
From before the
I think I, before the get, yeah, I think I, even as a part of the interview process, brought those ideas to the table.
That's great. I can tell the two of you have a lot of history together, but I understand there's an interesting story behind, Sarah, you actually becoming a board member. Perhaps humorous story.
It may have happened by mistake. I've received an email, I think that was just 2.5 years ago. Laura has this tradition of updating the board and all of the employees of ACE with a Friday update, which I really appreciate. We all do. It's now something we look forward to every Friday morning and keeps our finger on the pulse of the organization. And I can only imagine the time you put into that. But I think what happened is that Laura mistakenly sent that to me, and I was a few years into my new position with state parks, and I opened it and I read it, and everything that she shared with me when she again first arrived to our headquarters in Flagstaff, I saw achieved, not just in the size of the budget, but just the spirit in her message about all the happenings with ACE. So I just sent her back a little note of congratulations. And then she told me I might consider the board.
Yeah, it's literally clicking the wrong Sarah on an email list, or the right, maybe we should say the right Sarah on an email list. And it really was a funny story because Sarah sent me a cute note saying, "Oh, am I on the board now?" And I was like, yeah, I think we were just emailing back and forth, like, "Oh my gosh, you should be on the board. What a great idea." So we joked about it for a day or two. Then we got really serious. I'm like, "Yeah, you should be on, you should definitely think about being on the board." And we went through a normal board development process after that, but it was very, very serendipitous how that came about, and such a wonderful happening, I think, for both of us in the organization.
It's amazing how often those key moments can come from just
Yes.
random, accidentally sending the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah, if I understand right, you've also served as a project partner with ACE. Is that correct?
Yes, we currently are a project partner with ACE through California State Parks. And many years ago, there was an agreement, partnership agreement with California State Parks that opened the door to the California program specifically. The ACE crews that are experiencing California here now serve on our trails. And as I mentioned before, I think, a really unique opportunity through an OHV, an off-highway vehicle trust fund, to partner and grant monies to conservation corps throughout the state of California, as well as the federal agencies. So that is definitely a very significant partnership. We rely on these ACE crews to care for our trails and also in our off-highway vehicle lands, restoring them. And so, yeah, ACE is everywhere in my life.
I've often thought that there's a pipeline to, I need some work done. These folks might be able to help me to becoming, oh, I am now a cheerleader for this organization and I love everything they do. You are definitely part of that pipeline.
I think we've seen that pipeline a lot. There's a lot of
Yeah,
partners.
who are now advocates
Yes.
and cherished. Yeah. Yeah. So some of our listeners are probably only perhaps hearing about ACE for the first time. I know that I've been in the core world since 2009, and I think my own mother would be probably hard pressed to really explain what I do for work as much as she loves me, and she will be listening to this podcast. So if you were going to explain to maybe our moms or our partners or our significant others or whatever, what ACE does in one sentence, how would you go about doing that? Maybe we'll start with Laura and we'll go to Sarah.
One sentence.
That's a tough question.
One sentence, the proverbial elevator statement. Give it to us. I know it's tough. I'll give you more than one sentence.
How I describe ACE is a force for conservation, a force for workforce development, but not maybe in a traditional workforce development, and an organization that connects the dots between the need to protect our public lands and to conserve our public lands and to provide an avenue for young people. So think about it this way. There's a lot of organizations out there that do youth work, or they do job readiness training, or they support young adults. And there's a lot of organizations out there that do conservation work or advocacy all across the spectrum. We pull it together. Our organization and the core movement brings people and the land together. And I think that's really important, in more than one sentence, I know. But it's really important because the land is finite. If we don't do the work, it goes away. It's not there for other people to enjoy and to utilize. And the young people that participate in our programs are the next us, right? We hope. They're the people that we hope, and whatever iteration podcasts take in the next 5, 10 years, that the people sitting in these chairs have come to a program like ours. So that's sort of not quite an elevator speech, but it is how I think about ACE, and it's bringing all of these things together and creating a really unique experience I think, unique experience for both the members and, I would argue, for our partners in the land management agencies.
Yeah, I love that. You can't be cynical about the upcoming generation when you're working with them because you just see firsthand how wonderful they are. And yeah, yeah. Sarah, same question.
Yeah, no, I think Laura did a great job. And I think for myself and listening to what Laura just described, ACE for me is an action plan for the future. And what I mean by that is that there's obviously the beneficiaries or the environment, the economies around the projects throughout the country, places we visit to go hike. We might have a lunch or fill our gas tank. And the social benefits, obviously, of the members, the employees, and board members as well. I mean, it's galvanizing, and I just feel like it does make us accountable for a better future, our well being as people, and for the landscapes that we serve.
Yeah, I mean, we all come from so many different backgrounds. Yet I think the one thing that I've observed in the core world is that we all care a lot both about these places, but also that next generation component. And sometimes it's the places that bring us here for some of us. Sarah, you started
Mhm.
this conversation kind of kicking off a few places that are near and dear to you. The places bring us to this table, but I think that working with the next generation is what keeps a lot of us here. No, that's true for me.
I would agree. Very unifying. And I don't know, it's a way to give back.
Yeah. I mean, I know that when I tell someone what I do for work, generally what I hear is, oh, you're like the CCC. My grandfather was a part of the CCC. I didn't know that was still going on. And that's a phenomenal opportunity for us, but also it could be frustrating at times because you want to let everybody know we're here, we're doing this work, and we've been doing it for a considerable amount of time. Sarah, same question to you. How did you end up in this seat talking to us today?
Well, I certainly have history with the organization, and I've worked for actually a number of conservation corps. Laura just mentioned her work with SCA, the Student Conservation Association, and that was my first experience with a corps. I served growing up in Ohio. I served in California, where I am today at Tahoe National Forest, which it had great influence, just three-month term, but obviously kickstarted a really wonderful career here in California. And so for me, I love telling that story that I started as a trail guide and interpreter. I've worked on maintenance crews. I've worn so many hats. I've been a naturalist and a founder of a corps. And so I want to hear the stories from the corps members, from our EPIC members. And I think this just gives ACE another platform to reach people around the world and help to recruit folks to join us. And I'm super impressed with the Instagram and Facebook. And now with the podcast, it makes sense. I hope that we grow a very huge audience. And I can't wait to hear the members on here talk about their experiences or where they're working today, where their journey has landed them today.
Yeah, that's a story I never will get tired of hearing as somebody who said, here I am in this role today, but my start was with a Corps. I did a
Mhm.
3-month term of service, and that's a payday for all of
30
us
years
individuals for
ago.
sure. 30 years ago. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but you're luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had that opportunity because you were in a place like California, which had a Corps 30 years ago. A lot of the programs are younger than that, ACE included. Not much younger, but a little bit. You touched on this a bit, Laura, but I'd love to hear a little more about what you've seen this organization go through and grow. I often think back to the AmeriCorps Pledge, which was written, I presume, in the early 90s, and it talks about times of uncertainty. And boy, if we're talking about the last few years, we've been through COVID, we've been through a lot of changes in administrations. This has been an extreme time of uncertainty during your tenure here at ACE. How did you manage to turn this into such a powerful organization at a time that was challenging in so many ways?
It goes back to the mission of what we do. We do really good, important work, and we provide an amazing experience. And when you think about, well, COVID's a whole other, nobody could prepare for COVID. And that could be a whole podcast in and of itself about how we go through that. And I think if you look back at that, it's been pretty consistent over the years. And so I think that's the strength in this through uncertain times. You mentioned COVID. That was a real challenge for everybody. And we made lots of hard and good decisions about keeping the lights on and deciding we're going to do what we need to do to stay whole and be there when we come out of COVID. And we did. And I think we came out stronger because we committed to staff, we committed to our members. And again, I keep going back to we stayed true to what we do. And I think that's important now. That's going to be important in 10 years. And that's going to be important in 20 years.
Yeah, I love that. I do kind of want to have a little bit of a follow-up question. I mean, where was ACE in 2018 compared to today?
We were similar structure, similar, same type of programming, probably about one third the size that we are now. So we have seen really consistent and I would say sustainable growth. It hasn't been the type of growth where you worry you can't keep up with it or that it's going to crash, but it's been a really constant, sustainable growth. And that is totally nothing to do with me. And I would argue it's to do with our staff. That the people that are really working with our partners, growing those partnerships. What you'll see is a partner that we say we work with at the Grand Canyon forever. They now move to Bryce Canyon and they go, oh, ACE. So we grow through a lot of our growth has been more organic and not a defined, well, we're gonna increase by 20% every year. And all the stress that goes with that. It's been a really nice progression. Obviously, this year is a little different. So we're rethinking a little bit more of a deliberate strategy with some of the challenges that we've had. But I think it's just going to continue to do that because we do good work.
Yeah. I will say, Laura, that you set a tone, and it's a tone that I know I follow in my leadership. So I guess I'll take this the tiniest exception to that one thing you said, that it has nothing to do with you, because you set a tone, and I think we all follow that tone. And I think that's important. I think that's an important piece of leadership that you do. So I couldn't let that go.
Thanks.
Yeah, Sarah, similar question, but really, I think just you've touched on this a bit, but I'd love to hear a bit more about it. What drew you to this organization? You've got experience in the core world. That's and something new to me, because you and I are kind of meeting for the first time through this. So I'd love to hear a little more about that, especially the fact that you started a program. But that's very interesting to me and exciting.
Yeah, well, it was definitely an opportunity to grow and learn by joining a national organization. My work has been mainly focused since that internship with SCA in 1994 in California, working more with local and regional level. So embracing the challenge of the California state program with ACE, and then working directly for Laura as part of her executive leadership team helped to expand my reach for everything across the country that at that time we were serving. So for me, the work has always been meaningful. This is my first job in state government, although I've been a partner of federal and state for my entire career. I think for me, the nonprofit work has always selfishly just been, yeah, really meaningful. I think with working with young people, it gives me hope for the future. I mentioned earlier that ACE is an action plan, and I really believe that. I think in moments of challenge that Laura was just describing is why organizations like ACE exist, because we can be so nimble. We can match the moment, whether it's in a down economy or we're receiving stimulus. You can be flexible enough to respond to that challenge. And of course, this is modern day cores. This dates all the way back to the Great Depression, which you spoke about earlier as well, Dave.
It's in our DNA to just respond to what the youth need, what our incoming members need. I often think about, as I've observed ACE, and again, I've only been here for 2 years, but I've been observing ACE since I knew what the core world was. It seems like there's been a bit of a shift from kind of, well, I think a lot of people, when they think of a core program, if they think of us at all, they think of crew models. And we've really increased what we do with interns. I suspect that was also maybe a little bit of both, maybe a little bit of a deliberate process and maybe a little bit of responding to what members need. But is there a story there? Was there moments, kind of like you said with your aha moment, where you thought, this is a direction we need to go in?
Yes. And so we think about our two models. So, as you mentioned, the crew model is, I think, the more traditional model based on the Civilian Conservation Corps in different iterations, but it's foundational. But the internship model that we call EPIC, and I think the name just says it, Emerging Professionals in Conservation, provides a really different type of experience. And I think, as you put it, Dave, the aha moment there is the agency partners that we work with have a variety of needs and a variety of opportunities, and they don't always fit in a team-based model where you go out and do work. So you think about our internship program and conservation, I think about that as the absolute broadest definition of everything from backcountry rangers to folks doing campfire talks, biology, inventory and monitoring, helping out with disaster response. It's so vast, and it gives that young adult the opportunity to really literally have like a year-long interview when you think about it with an agency partner and to understand the ins and outs and have some really high level work that gets done. You can provide this opportunity for people who really want to go out, get dirty, get in the trail. But some of our internship models are for postdocs, everything and everything in between. And it provides that more individualized opportunity for members to train professional development and not just for federal jobs, for the private sector as well. So a pathway, a really, I think, unique pathway and opportunity. There's probably not a lot of industries out there where you can have a 12-month internship. They're really meaningful. And I think that's the area for me that was, I liked a lot about what ACE was doing and wanted to grow is that longer term opportunity. A lot of people in our core community, it's a summer internship, and you're doing typical summer internship type of work. We do some of that, but a good portion of what we do is high level. And I think that is something that talking with our partners in the land management agencies value incredibly. The opportunity to have that person, and then our members value that experience. So really catering to two different segments of the young adult population.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's exciting to me to hear that it was a very deliberate process. I applied to this job, as you well know, and that is what I was interested in. Anyone who's ever talked to me has heard my story of getting to spend some time with some CCC alums, some literal CCC boys, and just get to see them embrace us as peers. Peers separated by generations, but still peers. They knew the same tools. They knew the same. But some of these internships we're doing today, a CCC boy might not recognize. They are meeting the times we're in, which I think is really exciting. We cannot talk about this work without talking about the places we work. And you both have mentioned some of them, but I'd love to just dive into that a little bit. Can you paint a picture of the type of projects that we're doing and the places those projects are in?
More recently, and since I departed ACE as an employee and now engaged as a member of the board, something that I have observed and heard a lot about is our response to some of these significant weather events that we've had in the past 5 years. And so for me, when I picture ACE right now, again, it's we are available to help and respond. And I've heard Laura talk about that it is very satisfying for our members to meet that moment and be available, ready to serve. And so that's what I've been picturing more recently. I can go on and on about the amazing landscapes and just different varieties of mountain work to coastal work that ACE has served, of course, in California. But more recently, I am impressed with how Laura has developed a conservation corps that is there as a solution to some of the hardest hit areas, not only out in the Pacific West, but certainly in the Southeast.
Yeah, really, it touches on something you said earlier, Laura, that it's not about politics. These disasters cross lines, county, federal, and political ideology, and it is incredibly satisfying to be a part of that solution. Same question for you, Laura. What are some of the spots that stick out to you in the work that we're doing that just, I don't know, makes you go to bed feeling really proud?
Well, I want to echo what Sarah said. I think our work in disaster response is emerging, and we're also looking at different ways to continue to support that work. But to really think about ACEs, anywhere you go, whether it's a forest, a BLM, recreation area, the Park Service, state parks, refuges, we've been there. And big, small, if you go to the Grand Canyon, we're rehabilitating the trails there. If you're in the Tahoe National Forest, we're doing fuels reduction. If you're here in the eastern part of the country, we could be doing invasive plant management, which isn't as super sexy, but really important work. That's one of the things that gives me satisfaction is, and I think for all of us, not just me at ACE, but all of us, is the depth and the breadth of the work that we do. We're not a one trick pony. We do vastly different types of work. We've done coastal restoration work. We're in the desert, as Sarah said, we're in the mountains. And I think that's a really just a wonderful feeling that we're everywhere. We really, like, you think about the number of locations that we've worked. I think not always at the same moment in time, but we've been in all 50 states. We've worked in the U.S. territories in the Caribbean. We've worked in Guam, in Saipan, in a place called Palmyra Atoll, which no one has ever heard of. We had to look it up. It's this little tiny dot somewhere in the Pacific. And places like battlefields, small parks that maybe have one staff person that we are there supporting. So I think that satisfaction is the depth and the breadth and the fact our partners really appreciate the work that we do. And that feels good when you see an article saying how great it was for ACE, or if I talk to a partner, it's like, wow, we could not do this without ACE. And that's pretty rewarding for all of us. I think for anybody on the team at ACE is you hear those things, you're like, yeah. And that can be even if you're working in our finance or compliance or places that don't necessarily touch program, they feel that too. And that's really important to me. Is that everybody is a part of that, not just the program stuff. And that's why, as Sarah mentioned, I do a weekly update for staff on board. And anytime I can, I try to add something about program, whether it's an article where we were featured or we built some videos. Maybe we'll put this podcast link on there. You never know. But trying to make sure that we're connecting everybody that works here to the mission and to the work that we do, and reminding them too that what they do, we couldn't do it without them. So that's a lot. I think obviously I'm going on and on. So that's something that really is important to me.
Yeah. I love that you use the word mission because I often think of us as mission control, the staff,
Yeah.
and the members are the astronauts who are going out and doing the very highly appealing, very attractive work. And we're in the control booth just making it all happen. And
Yeah.
love that about us. So yeah, so I appreciate
I like that
the
analogy.
iteration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It's my favorite analogy of what we do. So yeah, and you two are the heads of NASA, and we're behind the computers watching and making these beautiful things happen. So that's my favorite one. You brought this up a bit, but I'd like to dive a bit more into it. How does ACE work with federal land management agencies, like obviously the ones that we all know so well, the National Park Service, the Forest Service, the BLM, but of course, some of these others that you touched on?
I think of ACE again as part of a co-stewardship, co-management with these land management agencies and California state parks, of course. And there is that interdependence now, something that I recognize now being in state government is it can be kind of slow. And ACE has the ability, the network to outreach across the country and mobilize crews and individuals so much quicker. And I think that our federal agencies have come to depend on that. So you were talking about partnership earlier on, but that's something I wanted to touch on as well, is that it almost could be hand in glove. We're out there as ACE, but we're also working alongside these agencies and absorbing whatever we can learn. And hopefully by the end of our term, we'll be offered a job. And so it can be a pretty seamless transition. And I think it's of major benefit to these agencies that get bogged down in the bureaucracy, if you will, or have red tape. We're able to streamline and again, match the moment and respond. So that's something that I have gained more perspective for in working for government.
I think that's a theme that has come up a few times as we've talked today, that ACE has been able to match the moment.
I think you've probably heard me say this multiple times, but we're partners. I refer to our federal land management agencies as partners. They're not clients, they're not customers. We work in a collaborative effort. We're not contractors. We bring something to the table, and our partners bring something to the table. So we provide young people and we support projects that need to get done, and our agency partners mentor and they provide their experiences. There is a true partnership. And I think this is fairly unique in the world where this is totally built that way. There's very few places where we do the work that there's not involvement by the agencies where we are. It is actually written in our agreements that the agencies will provide substantial involvement. And I think that's what really makes ACE and the core movement special is we could totally work as a con. We could go in, say we're going to treat X number of acres and at this price. But and there's folks that do that and that's great. But we go in and we provide that treatment of acres and we provide training for our members. Our partners share their experiences. There's this whole other aspect, especially in a crew team, of figuring out how to live and work together, which cannot be the value of that alone, and how to do a project, how to talk to the public. And that's in across all our programs. That brings that added value to the partner and to the members. It's a lot of work and we take great pride in the work that we do, but it's not just the work. So that's the mission side.
Yeah, it's so not just the work. I mean, for those of us who've been in this work for a long time, we get those moments where somebody comes up to us and says, I don't know if you remember me, but I worked for ACE 10 years ago and now I am doing this. And
Yeah.
you don't remember them. Sometimes it's great if you don't remember them because it means they probably weren't one of those ones that didn't get along with their crew members.
Exactly.
I never tire of that. It's one of the best parts about
Yeah.
this job.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it's also those members aren't all going to be park rangers or they're not all going to be with the Forest Service. And I think that's great, quite honestly. I'm just as happy, and used this analogy probably too many times, but I'm just as happy if one of our members becomes a dentist with a conservation ethic as if they were in the Park Service, because those are the people that are important and those are the people that are going to care and be decision makers in different places. So that former member, wherever they end up in the private sector, in a federal land management agency, that's all great. And when you said that, it's like, oh, that sparked me to say, oh yeah, where our members go is critically important. And most of them don't work for the government. Most of our members, we're actually trying to figure out how to track this a little bit and quantify that, are in the public sector. And the skills that they get from ACE are just as valuable as if they were a ranger or forest tech.
I agree 100%. I have members who at the end of the season said, Dave, this was the hardest thing I ever did. I'm going to go get a job in a bank now, but I will never forget this. And that was
Yeah.
still a massive victory. They're going to care about these places for the rest of their lives. And we also maybe saved them from a career that wasn't right. So they might not have shown up to work a seasonal job with Sarah and found out, wait a minute, why am I still doing this? I hate this. So those are wins.
They are. And I think a lot of the work that I do with externally is promoting that, is reminding people that what we do is we're not just building the next Park Service. So we're building people with a conservation ethic. They might not even be leaders. They might be just out there and enjoying or volunteering for a day. And I think that's what we want to see. I think we've got more than 10,000 people that have gone through ACE in the 20 years, and that can make a difference.
We're at a point now at Corps wide where we have Congress people who have served at conservation corps where, I'm waiting for the day when we have a Secretary of the Interior who's an ACE alum. I think that's going to be very exciting, and someday it'll happen.
It will. I think it will.
Yeah. So you touched on this. So maybe, Laura, I'm just going to kind of bring this up now. You mentioned how many members have served with ACE in our history. We mobilize over 1,000 young adults annually. How do we do that? That's quite an accomplishment.
We have a full-time staff of about 200 people. And as I've mentioned throughout this podcast, in a variety of roles. So we have folks on staff that recruit, that do human resources, that work with our partners to find the right projects and find the right projects and the right members and connect them and support them throughout all this. So it's a fairly well-oiled machine. We're not perfect, but we do. We have a lot of people, as you put it, in mission control that are putting all the pieces in place so that young person can have that experience at that site, or that team can go out and get that project work done. So again, we have teams that specifically support our internship programs and our crew programs. And we have people that are working in the background in our communications, making sure we're getting the messaging out and wording. So yeah, it's a lot of people is how that happens. And it's a great group of people. And we're so fortunate to have the staff that we have that I would argue, for the most part, are just as passionate about the work as our members. Sometimes maybe more so.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think this goes back to something you both mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, that employer of choice, because we don't hand select these people by and large. They have to come to us first. And this, I'm talking members and staff here. And yet we are selecting from among the cream of the crop in terms of people constantly. And I think that's a testament to what you built. That we post a job and we get phenomenal applicants over and over again at every level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, I think you are in a unique position to answer a follow-up question on that, because you are seeing some of those folks that have already gone through our recruitment process and our hiring process and are showing up in boots and hard hat and gear ready to work for you. What are you seeing? What kind of folks are you seeing out there?
Well, ACE has an incredible reputation nationwide for being able to mobilize, like Laura just shared. It's unique that we're able to live in places where we can drive to and live in a tent for a couple weeks before we head back to our home base. So I think that positions ACE to attract people of all different backgrounds that are looking for this experience or adventure in their life. They have never camped before. So I see a longer term commitment, specifically in California, when I am talking with other colleagues within California state parks that actually did work for ACE. I've run into former ACERs, we call them, in the field as well. So again, I think it's a very strong mechanism for attracting talent for not only natural resource conservation management in California, but anywhere across the country. And I'm super proud to see how ACE has grown over the years under Laura's leadership and the abilities to hire these folks with experience. I mean, it's really unique. I was thinking back to when I was on a maintenance crew in high school and how that has helped me to relate to all different levels of management in state parks specifically.
I love that. This has been such a fun conversation. I've been looking forward to this for months. I think in conclusion, I'd like to ask one more question and maybe start with Sarah and have you finish it, Laura. And my question is this. I think often we hear people say maybe less than flattering things about upcoming generations. I'd love to hear maybe how you'd respond to that or what you'd say. What if you were going to try to distill the generations we work with, who we refer to as young people, what would you say about them? And especially what would you say to maybe counter the narrative that we sometimes hear?
Young people that are joining places, organizations like ACE are committing to something that's really challenging. I think this generation is open to learning. I think after COVID, we saw social interactions and connections and through our cell phones and devices that those interactions were greatly limited. And so for me, again, ACE, what I see is solidarity. It's unifying. It's a place where people can grow and again contribute to society or contribute to caring for our planet. I mean, it's pretty empowering to commit to something like this, and it might not be for everyone. And when I have met members that really didn't have an expectation, and then 6 months later, when they return back to the base where our residential housing exists, the stories that they share, the growth that has occurred, and knowing what they're going to contribute in terms of the future that I was speaking about earlier, that we are all accountable for. I think it's a really rewarding experience. And I think that, again, in moments like these that are challenging, I don't know, I feel like it's the place to be. I don't know how else to describe it.
I love that. Same question for you, Laura.
Every generation has had something said about this. So this generation maybe is a little unique, but maybe not. I think one of the things in any generation is people do care about things. And whether it's the environment, whether it's climate, whether it's social justice, people do care. And I think that's the appeal of ACE. And it's also the challenge for ACE to make sure that we're also relevant and that we are in a place to support that, because the members and the potential members that I get the opportunity to talk with, which is not as many as I'd like, care and want to do something. And they don't always know what to do, they can do, or how to do it. And I think that's where a program like this can say, hey, we can show you what you can do and how you can do it. And we also learn from that of, okay, how do we make sure we're connecting to that population? And I think we all know we're using social media a lot more. We're a lot more tech savvy as an organization because that's where we're meeting people where they are. And that's going to be, I think, as we think about moving forward as an organization, that's what we've got to continue to do is learn, understand, because the next generation may be really different and may be looking for different things. And that's where we need to be mindful and be thinking about that now. And if you had told me when I started this work 25 years ago, we'd be doing podcasts or we'd be having multiple social media accounts, I would have been like, I don't think
Crazy.
really, I don't think so. So I just think it's understanding where each generation is coming from. And our recruitment is going through the roof. People want to do this, they want to do
Awesome.
something. And I think that's the key, whether they're connected to their phones, whatever, they want to do something. And I think that's universal. If you go back every generation, back to the C's, doing something. So it
I'm
may feel kind of simple, but I think that's what it is.
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, when like I said, I got to hang out with some CC boys that they wanted to serve. Youth today still wants to serve. It has been really fun talking to the two of you. I love this organization and I see you as the two people who really set the tone for this group and make it such a fantastic place to spend my days. So thank you very much.
Thank you for hosting, Dave. This has been fun.
It has been fun. It's been a joy.
Thank you so much, Dave, for hosting. I always enjoy visiting with Laura, and I also want to extend a big thank you to our listeners and for those that are going to be future ACERs after listening to this very engaging podcast.
Well, thank you again, Laura and Sarah, for what a phenomenal conversation. And thank you to our listeners for learning a little bit about what we do and hopefully finding your own engagement as you go forward.
Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Also, be sure to check out our website at usaconservation.org. Thanks again for listening, and we hope you'll continue to be part of our journey as we go behind the scenes with the dedicated individuals working tirelessly to protect and preserve our natural wonders.